no time letting their presence be known.
Uh-oh. Fourth team now enters into the mix. Probably an additional team coming from Whiffy. And we see it, Monster, it's just outside of Magic Mosses. So a lot of these teams that do land up here, instead of kind of cutting towards the side, beelining it to zone, they could go all the way towards the north. One tick zone damage isn't going to be much, and then they could try to get into where it isn't as congested, maybe above Demon's Dojo, maybe above Pump Power. Those are going to be some of the Dojo, maybe above Pump Power. Those are going to be some of the pivotal spots for any of these teams rotating early. And for Taki, Vert, and Isha, the longer you stay here in this position, you're closing off opportunities. You're closing off options, all for a singular elimination, which might not necessarily mean much. It's only 4 points.
It was Amplify and Shiny Cat there. Take a look at the replay here.
Oh, no.
Clicks. A little bit of fall damage. Just giving you guys the full picture here. Off to a rocky Game 7 right now. Seems like they're just rolling up to the Flutter Frogs here shortly as well. So determined to play deep in the storm. There's also 3 trios in the vicinity here. They cut this one player off and in they go.
And only cut him off. They get a knock. So far away from the rest of his team. And this is a little bit of a different strat, Monster. Yes, the zone plays a huge role as it's going away from the north side overall. But now Clicks, Iamzo, and Higgs, if there's anything left over in that black market, they have an abundance of gold from their Lone Wolf POI they could finally use. And this is something they were not able to do yesterday because of where the zones were pulling. It would have been way too risky for them to go into the black market, possibly get stuck there, possibly get stuck overall. A lot of risk associated with that. And now they're going above and around, so that way they can go ahead and be behind every single one of these teams rotating in and give them the option to visit that black market, because they do have some extra splashes and men miss smoke, so they can stagger as long as they want.
It's a really good point. Take a look at the key, though. Clicks jumping right on into the mix of things here. Makes you wonder, why was this team sitting around this long? This hurt. They saw that there was a trio nearby. Didn't even take the time to cap off, but neither here nor there. It's going to bring Clicks' trio up to 3 eliminations. These elims extremely important in allowing them to start closing that point gap for elim so early in the game is a massive come up. Remember, each elimination is worth 4 points.
I think it was about 41 points. Peterbot Cole, the Ritual, did have a lead. Those 4 eliminations, just like you said, is doing a good job of cutting down that lead before placement points even begin to set in. 27 teams still left alive, 77 players. Zone hovered over Pump Power, and that's where you saw a lot of those Western North teams begin to rotate into. So if it continues in this trend, it could end up being one of the stacked parts of the zone. Even more so stacked if it continues to pull towards the north. So I think a lot of these teams are hoping just a little bit for South Pool. Oh, no.
Bucky getting active right now on our 3rd place.
It's big.
Visuals, Aminish Braids here. Visuals already taken down right now. Okis traded off as well, but the chop comes through. See the kneecapper come out to go ahead and make sure he mitigates any potential damage there, and Bucky gives up the high ground right now. Opting to go ultimate low. Cam's got another side angle here, but the pressure is on right now for this trio.
Yeah, even though Okis is down, with that elimination, it's only going to be Braids and Cam still left alive on the other side, so a 2v2. They just got to be very, very careful. And I think that's why Aminish, Braids, Visuals, they land over towards Foxy Floodgates. They can disengage out of this position, run towards the back. It's relatively early in the game, so not too chaotic of storm damage is going to go off. Plus, you see some extra heals there. But Braids is hiding towards the top. So you got to wonder if you're Bucky and Cam, do you think they disengaged all together as he's able to land some free damage onto Cam? You got to hope he has HP now, because he could go down in the zone.
Oh yeah, the med mist starts to come out. They're actually forced now to kind of double up here, and this is going to buy time for the reboot where they can't even look up to go ahead and target him. So honestly, a very successful reboot and just a small play that's going to make the difference here at the Floodgates, allowing Visuals to get right back to his loot pile here. And it's little things like that that all of a sudden help you kind of bounce back into the game. And just think about this. Braids, Aminish, and Visuals didn't finish less than 11th place yesterday. The difference maker between them and the teams up in 1st and 2nd was the fact that the eliminations that Peterbot's trio, Clicks' trio were able to accumulate far outweighed the placement points overall. solo
well
pushing
said.
right now. What?
Oh, Minish is feeling a little confident right now. He takes a big shot, but Cam is now running his way in. He's smoothly running through those builds like a hot knife through butter. That's a good amount of confidence as well. And Minish forced to use the splashes. There goes the HP. 91 damage above the threshold. You can see with a Minish getting knocked down early, taken down by Peterbot. Another elimination on the visuals. They need the surge.
Yeah,
and they need it bad.
Braids coming from the other angle right now, and they slam Cam here right in the mix, and then they get the down body as well. So a perfect amount of damage swinging in their favor here. Bucky just left wondering what went wrong. How did his teammate get left behind right there, caught out of position?
Yeah, and this is just turning into a nightmare. Yeah, he's below. He can't go back into the zone and reboot his teammates. Otherwise, he's going to fall further and further below. Good luck to Bucky as we jump on board Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual all the way to Seaport from Crime City. Making these quick rotations outside of the zone. 500 plus damage above the threshold. I feel bad for Polus and his trio. Not the most experienced. Make it into a grand finals. And then in game one to start day two, you're running into Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual.
Yeah, but they hold their own. Pushing off Cold and Ritual here for a moment's time. And it makes you wonder if Peterbot plays any better. If we see that game 6 Peterbot come out yesterday, with how good Ritual and Cold were performing all throughout the 6 games, they could really find a breakaway moment. But so far, this completely eastern pool here for the zone is still going to end up veering slightly towards the north. But again, a little different than the games that we saw yesterday for the most part.
Yeah, and they're just using this to their advantage, not even going towards the zone or where it was. They're just beelining straight towards the zone. They know not too many players are going to be on top of that mountain on the outside. If they have enough heals, maybe even get eliminations to utilize that siphon, this could be the play that wins them or puts them in the best position here for game number 1. Couple knocks going down. Bucky actually going down to the Storm overall. Storm Surge and him being a solo just didn't work out for him as a Minish. Still down, stuck between 2 different teams. One of them being Cold and Peterbot, who are quickly moving on over.
Yeah, after that knock right there, look at how quickly they're trying to come in for the refresh here potentially. And if your visuals diminish and braids, you got to put up a front right now. You got to put up a defensive hold here. Not only for the damage, but because you got Peterbot's trio inching up on your positioning right now for this prime real estate here. Oh, look, Braids takes off. They're going towards the mountain.
It's a bit of a risky play. You see there's just chunks, big chunks of HP missing. They don't have any resources to kind of make that up, and they're just pushing straight in. This might be a blessing, though. Joshi's already down. Aoxy's there. They get the elimination onto 1. Even if it's not the points, they're still able to get the loot that they need. Damage for Storm Surge, 51 above, feeling a little bit more comfortable, and that's an understatement because a Minish just goes in and bulldozes that trio back to the lobby.
I'm trying to figure out, like, how did they know? Like, they catch a Minish with extremely again, low HP out in the open, but he keys up the mountain and found an even weaker team. They must have been taking a small fight there just before that, before Peterbot kind of put his 2 cents into the mix here. But either way, phenomenal play to keep them in the game right there. Meanwhile, complete other side of the zone here. Click Signals in the Obso got to be happy that they're rotating kind of the dead side northern area here, because they're on the opposite side of Peterbot, right? Just staying away from the juggernauts that toppled them over, right? Kind of threw off their entire mid game yesterday in game number 6.
And you see they were the only team, though, to get 2 victory royales yesterday. And honestly, I like this positioning on the zone. If it pulls anywhere but south, they are in one of the best spots in the zone so far, getting ready for these next moving zones. But if it does pull south, not just them, but everybody else on this side of the zone is going to have some trouble trying to make it up over that mountain on the other side. You see so many teams already positioned with that elevation, looking down at the side, not just the Yamzo, but he does land a shot on the Creon, who seems like he might be by himself. I don't see his teammates anywhere. That might be one of the few solos left in this lobby.
I wouldn't put it past the Yamzo's team to get this refresh right here, given how weak that team below them is. Capcom and Rise, you talk about the double VRs yesterday, you have to put this team in the conversation. They were the squad fighting for first and second in those back-to-back games. Just incredible performance, particularly from Japco. But hold up. Back to Minish, Braids, and Visuals. That elimination, not enough, but it buys them a little bit of time. Now they have to fight for damage here. Only 2 minis here. We knew that they didn't have much to work with before. Visuals kind of caught out of position there. Unfortunately, taking way too much damage here. The water sprite picked up, and then the elimination on the tail end. They are really fighting for their placement right now on the standings, but no, the lobby starts to focus in. Even with the big 5 eliminations, they can't catch a break.
Yeah, slow to rotate. Max pull all the way towards the western side of this mountain. Everything's stacked against them now because they don't have any material either. At least the Minish does not. No extra shields. And there's a team waiting right next to him, and you really just at their mercy. It doesn't even know about the full trio right behind him. So as soon as he begins this rotation, if he doesn't watch out, that could be his demise. But he's trying to land some shots because he knows Monster, even though Storm Surge did deactivate, he knows once it turns on yet again, they are going to be below that threshold. They are going to be a duo, and they're going to have to figure it out quick.
Oh, I was just about to say, no way. Braze sets up the target fire with Acorn Shiro from up top. Nearly had a full elimination set up for him, but opts to go ahead and heal a little bit more passively instead here. Very limited material. Notice that Braids had to split his mats with Visuals here. Sorry, with the Menace, just to keep them in the game right now. And they are desperately holding on. But look, we're already at 13 trios remaining in the lobby. Just ahead of Braids here. You have Peter Boss trio on high ground. Acorn, Boyo, and Agers trying to make a comeback. Kanata showing life in this last game as well here to kind of kick things off. Meanwhile, Clixiomzo and Higgs on a low ground rotate. 7 Elims already for the trio. Make it 8 as they catch Yusuf on the rotate here.
It's a big pickup for them because they even just now found that medallion. Something that we do see Yamza, Clicks, and Higgs go for time and time again, but now they get another foreign pull with the rest of the lobby, and there's nobody down there but that one team in front of them. Everybody else stacked at the side of the mountain, and even the south part of the zone overall. And Cold Ritual, Peterbot using that to their advantage with everybody trying to rotate too early, forced to box up because of damage. They're using that as an opportunity to smoothly move through the zone as Peterbot lands a good shot onto a full trio up above, and now they're the ones getting focused.
And Peterbot sets that up for G-Monster to jump in and actually take down Japco. So that's going to be a difference maker for Muzz's trio, but Muzz fighting back up top, and then Peterbot's team turns around, catches a whiff of the chaos, and finishes up the job here. Look at the upgrades coming through for the loadout now, but still very little heals here on Peterbot's team. Cole taken out, Ritual taken out by a Minish's trio from down low, and Agers from up top. They sandwich down the fire here and clean them up, but it's all up to Peterbot. Peterbot claps back onto a Minish shot from behind. Back to the lobby now by Shadow's team, and a glimmer of a hope breaks open in the sky here. The sun is shining through for Higgs, Clicks, and Yamzo, who now have a chance to earn more placement points and close the gap.
Yeah, there's at least 30+ points left into the top 8 if they can secure that victory royale. They have 8 eliminations as well. This is a recipe for success, especially since they're now taking the front side of the zone. There is nobody down there even next to them as it leads towards the house, but up above, Agers, Poyo, Acorn feeling just as safe, if not safer, up in the clouds. There's only one team close to them, and they're immediately going to drop down low to a different layer.
So impressive. We're watching two sides of a coin here. Clixiomzo, Higgs opting to play ultimate low this entire end game, and then you see the opposite teams trying to stay to the mid, stay to the high ground, trusting that the zone was going to bounce back up. However, it doesn't matter. All they've done is allowed them to put the pressure on. Braids is holding on a top 5 for him. Well done, son, but look at what's happening here. Finally now, pressure's starting to come in. Clicks is going to be the first to fall. They box him up, try to go for the save. It's Bluga's trio on the other side of the wall. Kanata's there as well, and they are starting to cook it up.
Yeah, that's because of their game plan. They got so much space in the front side of zone. They just immediately grabbed the body, tossed it to the front, got the revive. Now they have a chance to look behind. This is something I feel like Kelly and Vivid talked about, that they did not do enough on day one, looking to the backside of the zone, trying to get those eliminations. They already reached double digits in this game and a final 4 spot, but everybody alive is going to be full trio. Some might be stronger than other, and that's where they're trying to battle from the low ground. Yamzo quick to take A big shot with the shields. He has to figure out a way to stagger back, get the HP up. The medallion proven to be useful in this situation, but only for so long. Yamso goes down. Clicks tries to make a miracle play, but the full trio goes out.
They tried to kneecap him out to the lobby, but it wasn't good enough. Not enough charge in the swing here. Meanwhile, Adrian, Foyo, Acorn starting to bring the pressure from the high ground down. Just 4 eliminations, but this top 3 positioning here is what matters most. But will the veteran trio close this one out is the real question. Shadow's team starting to turn online here. Curve, Tyler staying at the front side of zone here. Foyo halfway through the maps here. There's that one wild card factor. Finally, they find him. It's Sphinx in the mix here. Now, Jacob, we're looking at a clean 3v3.
Yep, and already Ager's going to drop down on the one side. Good damage on the curve. Poyo's going to clean that one up. Even with Ager's going down, Poyo has his back. And the Major 1 champion starting in 7th place. They cook up a victory royale and rise to the top.
It's crazy because yesterday we called it Acorn. Typically that day 2 Acorn comes out and he doesn't look back. And hey man, starting things off with a game 7 victory royale's gotta feel nice for them to put them right back in the conversation. But let's watch it back from their side here. We got the best of Agers and Foyo coming out here, really kicking things off, and the way Agers was able to kind of initiate the fight and allow Foyo to just get active from the sidelines was so perfect. And you got to give respect to the Young Bucks, Shadow and Curve and Tyler there coming through. So congrats, game 7's wraps there. Zeke, what do you have for us now?
You see what I'm saying? You see what I said at the start of the show? If Foyo came out and just won a game, we could be looking at a top 5 situation to qualify to globals. And Poyo said, you know what, Zeke, you want to win? You want us to win game 1, Zeke? We'll do that for you. I couldn't have written a better script. Poyo, Agers, Acorn, I just cannot believe, Kelly, they were able to walk away the game the way they did. They just had high ground and just no one cared. And like, that's not the situation you want to allow Poyo to be in.
Well, someone cared. Muzz cared, but then he got punished for it. So it's a little bit understanding when the rest of the lobby kind of understands what happens when you try and focus on height instead of Peterbus trio on the low ground. But Acorn, Agers, and Poyo did an incredible job. And Zeke, I know you're trying to take credit for it, but Vivid around Zone 5 said, watch Acorn, Agers, and Poyo win this game from height.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually what I was calling towards the, earlier on before we even started this game. I was like, listen, that's what I want to see from this round. I think we're going to see them on the higher ground and make a little bit of a comeback. And instantly we can see them on the higher ground in game number 1 of day number 2. And this actually started yesterday, right? A lot of people would be like, oh, wow, they might have been cooking something up overnight. No, I think this trio actually started to cook this up in games 5, game 6 yesterday, right? They were teetering around with going for higher ground. They were trying it out. A couple games, they actually got it. And that's when I was like, you know what? I think day 2, we're going to be seeing a lot of high ground from this trio, and we're going to see a big comeback from them. First game of the day, it has started.
I am liking what I'm seeing. 5 more games. Now, very quickly before we go to break, I just want to shout out Courage, JD, and the Courageous. I really hope that you have an amazing party, man. When we return after this short break, more action from the FNCS. So stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone, to the FNCS game number 1 of the day. 7 overall starts with a bang. Pollo decides we're going to go ahead and get ourselves a victory royale. The standings, as you know it, Zeke, will be shaken just like you to your very core. And I am. Let's start talking about some of the things we saw from this last game, and eventually we get to the standings where there have definitely been some developments. We kind of talked about the fact that maybe at the end of the competition we could see maybe top 5 being enough to qualify through the globals. Well, with Pollo suddenly jumping into 4th place and tying Reed, Kelly, it's looking like that might be the case.
We have a tie for 4th and 5th place, and then it's only a 6-point difference between Ritual Cold and Peterbot versus Clicks, Higgs, and Iamzo. And that game 7 for Clicks, Higgs, and Iamzo was a bit of a question mark, as we like to see here. We saw Clicks go down a little early, had a little bit of a misstep, but then the recovery that they made, going for that team in Storm, getting that little bit of health back so that once they finally did rotate to the end game, they were able to control the low ground like what we know that they do. But we heard our casters call it out. Clicks, Iamzo, and Higgs not necessarily staying to the front of zone like what we've seen them do, playing just a little bit more back to go more for those eliminations, and we saw that kind of pan out. Look at the elims they're able to grab.
Yeah, I love the adjustment from the trail. I mean, they're just playing so good right now. As soon as Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual misstep just a little bit right, go down a little bit early, they're right there. They're playing so consistent when they don't go down in the early game to go ahead and close that gap, which is why that 6-point difference is screaming right now, right? If you're Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual, you got to be feeling the pressure from that one. Clicks, Higgs, and Iamzo, like I said, we talked about it earlier. Zeke was like, maybe they got to change something. I was like, no, they don't got to change anything. Just got to be a little bit more aware in the first couple minutes of the game. And I promise they're going to start doing well. The chase is on.
Oh man, the chase is on. 5 more games of this. Let's also talk about Peterbot, right? I mean, again, 6 points really isn't anything, right? We could see either of these trios make a mistake, fall early, or Peterbot decide I'm gonna run it Clicks again, and we could see him dethroned here on day number 2. But I liked from this game, like, yeah, they only placed 9th with 3 eliminations, but clearly this trio has such an impact on the lobby.
Yeah, it's less about what they offer themselves and more so what they take away from everyone else. And we saw Muzz's trio going to kind of tag high ground there, and Peterbot able to catch them out, grab a few eliminations there. But honestly, 3 eliminations, even going down this early, is a bit of a short stop for them. And it'll be interesting to see kind of how they respond to this. We know that anytime something kind of negative or aggressive towards Peterbot happens, he tends to reverse it on that person tenfold. So I believe it was Adri's trio that actually took down Peterbot. So let's see if he pulls a Vino and lands on them.
Yeah, the crazy thing for me right there is they usually do so good at getting to the end games in a pretty healthy position, right? But as we saw right there, when they went down 0 materials to kind of work with trying to sneak away with a little bit of a kneecap or rotate through the air. Way too good of aimers on the high ground to kind of allow that to happen. 9th place, 3 eliminations for the trio. That's actually their worst game yet in this final. So we'll have to kind of keep an eye on how they're doing. I'm a little mad looking at these standings, and I'm not going to lie, Zeke. Kanata, right, in the mix, in the end game right there. 3rd place, 4 eliminations. Doesn't move on the leaderboard. How in the heck is that? Right after yesterday's day, right? A little bit of a rough one. Finally, we see him in the mix. Doesn't move up at all. I mean, still holding on, still close to the rest of the competition, but I was like, they're going to jump up, and they just didn't.
Man, it happens because Shadow, Curve, and Tyler decided to place, where they did this game, right? 2nd place. And
yeah,
I think it's interesting because, like, to some degree, you kind of want them to move up the standings, right? What you definitely don't want is them moving down. So I appreciate that Kanata at least kept them where they were. But of course, again, coming back to this trio, the fact that they won, we're starting to shake things up, Kelly. It's starting to get a little too close for comfort. I'm excited, but I'm also nervous.
Well, speaking of shaking things up, we've seen Shadow's trio shake things up. And again, another one of those dark horse trios that we've watched all the way back from Major 1. But for me, really what stood out about this trio was that incredible 20 elimination game we got from one of the more recent performance evaluations. Yeah. A majority of that coming from Shadow. So to see this kind of early aggression from this team, it may have taken a day for them to really lock in, but now I'm excited to see if we can get more of that ultra aggression that we saw from Shadow before.
Lock in, indeed. That was their best game. 2nd place, 9 eliminations. Cool to see that. Maybe they're going to throw their name in the mix right now, but 100 points separating 4th and 9th place. Anything can happen, Zeke.